first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Appreciate you joining us, however you found us. Remember, we're live every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific with all kinds of different things that we talk about. And today, we're talking about NASA and the Artemis mission. So I was able to sit down with Senator Cantwell from Washington and talk to her about some of the different efforts that are being made to assist Artemis in the whole planning for that and bringing some jobs to companies here in the Northwest. There are a lot of companies here working on this project, including Envirolux, and I spoke to Terry Grover from them as well. So we're going to be playing those interviews. But before we get into that, I thought maybe we'd take just a second here and talk about what the Artemis mission is, because I feel like maybe not everybody's aware of this. So this is essentially NASA's plan to bring humans back to the moon, and then maybe even beyond that. So this is a series of missions that are going on. The Artemis 1, that's what you're looking at right there, launched back in November. No people on board of that one. The big, huge rocket took the Orion capsule up and it went around the moon and did a bunch of tests like that to see if it would be safe for people. The next one is going to be happening later on in 2024. Then 2025, we're actually sending people back to the moon. That's the plan anyway. We're going to land people on the moon, eventually developing a moon base. That's part of this whole program that's going on. It's all to bring that back. But how do we do that? Well, you need a really giant rocket to start off with. And that's what you're looking at right there. That's the SLS, Space Launch System. It's not maybe a very creative name, but it's pretty accurate as far as what it is. The Space Launch System, that's what's going to be doing it. You're not going to have a space shuttle on there. That's what we used to use. Instead, it's going to be using an actual little capsule on top of it. That'll be what is carrying people up there. Now, the whole thing, though, is very, very complex. It requires, obviously, a lot of components, a lot of different things, including what you saw there was some lighting. Even the lighting is very, very important to make sure that that's even correct, not only for the ship, but also for the launch system, for the launch pad. Every little piece of this is very meticulously designed, and that's where it came in that we have a lot of companies here in the Northwest. I believe there's 42 just in the state of Washington that are working on the Artemis mission from all kinds of different angles, all kinds of different things. So that's why I wanted to sit down with one of the companies that's here locally in the Portland area. They're actually in Vancouver, Washington, who are working on something for this, and that is Envirolux. So Envirolux Energy Systems, they are working on the lighting, as I mentioned. So we actually went out there to their location, got to take a look at some of the different products being made, how they're actually doing it, why it's so important, and then I was able to speak to Terry, who is the CEO of the company, about the entire process. So that's what we're going to play here first. We'll play the interview with Terry. We learn a little bit about the company, how he got started. We find out about how they got involved with NASA, why these products are so important, and just learn a little bit more about somebody who's right here in our backyard working on something really, really cool. So here we go. Here's Terry to start off with, and then we'll come back and we'll play my interview with Senator Cantwell. One of those companies, Envirolux, Terry Grover. Thank you so much for joining us, Terry. I'm excited to talk about this. It's such a cool thing you're working on. For everybody who's watching right now, though, can you tell us about your company, specifically what you do, and then we'll get into the Artemis side of things.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. Envirolux Energy was established in 1989. We're a made-in-USA manufacturer of commercial LED lighting products. We have full automation equipment, make our own circuit boards, all the capabilities to do our all in-house metalworks and so forth, and to be able to offer entities such as NASA quick turnaround and design and build custom apparatus for things such as the new launch pad for the Artemis rocket.
Yeah, and talking about, the launch pad itself. So you've been working on these kinds of products for a while. How did you get introduced to NASA? Where was that process like? You're making your lighting products, all of a sudden something like this gets a hold of you. How did that happen?
Yeah, so NASA was struggling in about 2017 to find a made-in-USA entity that could provide required made-in-USA products. Almost about 99% of our industry is simply just imported from other countries such as China. And so NASA needed an entity that could work with their engineers to design and build custom quick turn product for different applications. And so engineer reached out to us in 2017. Our first project culminated a couple months later with some custom amber lighting fixtures that we developed because of the environment down in Kennedy Space Center where they have to be turtle friendly. And then that led to other projects such as the Mars rover facility, the deep space vacuum chamber where they simulate deep space, with the Orion capsule where they weren't able to use lighting since and at all since 1960 when they're doing the testing. It had to all be digital instrumental. We developed a lighting system that would work in the vacuum chamber, allow them to be able to view the capsule as it's being tested inside the vacuum chamber. We've done many of their testing facilities across campus there. What people don't realize is Kennedy Space Center is 5 times the size of Manhattan. So you can imagine all of the potential applications there, all of the buildings that have been there since the late 50s, 60s that it needed updating, special requirements for the hangars that a lot of these space vehicles are housed in, such as the Vehicular Assembly Building. NASA also hosts other entities there we do work with, such as Boeing, Lockheed Martin, the Air Force, SpaceX, the United Launch Association, and so forth. So that's how we got introduced and started.
That's a pretty big roster of companies right there that you're working for. When it comes to that, you know, you're here based out of Vancouver, Washington, or at least you have your facility there that we went and checked out. And we went out there, you know, and saw some of your employees in action, saw you building some of the lighting. Talk about what it means to be a company here working on such a huge project.
Yeah, so the great thing about, you know, being in the Northwest, you know, a lot of entities in the lighting industry, most of them are all derived on the East Coast, and there's hardly a presence for lighting on the West Coast, especially up in the Northwest, that is a made in USA manufacturer. So being able to state that, you know, we're a made in USA manufacturer, number one, number two for the lighting industry, being able to make produce circuit boards here in the States is, you know, is a, you know, nice thing to be able to contribute to the West Coast and also nationally.
And how important has it been, you know, some of the advocacy that's gone on to bring some of that industry here to the Pacific Northwest? I know we actually spoke to Senator Cantwell about some of this, like 42 companies, I believe it is, in the state of Washington alone, you know, and then also some in Oregon. How important is advocacy from the from representatives, you know, for this program?
Now, what was that again? I'm sorry, I didn't get all that.
That's all right. We're pre-recorded. So how important is the advocacy of your representatives and senators for bringing this kind of program to the Northwest?
Oh, and yeah, absolutely. So when a lot of things have been instituted, such as import tariffs that really help Made in USA companies, not only in Washington State, but nationally, the ability to have ports up and down the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Tacoma, Portland, that allow us to, you know, have great connections with trucking companies that, you know, work nationally and just promoting green programs in the Northwest for Made in USA products that are involved in the energy industry, whether it's, you know, LED lighting, solar, wind. So the Northwest has been you know, Washington State, Oregon, a great advocate for those companies that are being either they've been involved in those technologies or becoming involved in those technologies.
Talk to us a little bit about what we're looking at right here. These are some of the images, I believe, of some of your lighting. So
the first image was a NASA Vehicular Assembly Building where they produced the Artemis spacecraft and previous crafts such as Space Shuttle, all of the Space Shuttle craft that had been, you know, from the 80s. And so that's the Artemis rocket. That's the Artemis launch pad right there. And that's the transport vehicle, which we also produce lighting for to illuminate the rocket. That's the outside of the VAB vehicle assembly building on the left. You see Envirolux LED lighting up the American flag. And the illustration on the right is the NASA logo, which was lit by older technology, HID, the incumbent technology before LED. But the Envirolux product is saving approximately 70 to 75% energy.
That's amazing in its own right there, and just to be able to bring that to the program. How do you see this going forward in the future as the Artemis mission expands? You know, we start seeing more launches, we start seeing more people go into space, eventually, like we talked about, the moon, even Mars. How do you see this expanding for yourself and other companies in the Northwest?
Yeah, so our situation with Kennedy Space Center is you know, kind of unique in the fact that before the world of LED, we were involved in other technologies. We were able to build relationships nationally. Over the years, we've private labeled for General Electric, Philips Lighting, Osram, which is a Siemens-owned company, Hubble Lighting, many other manufacturers that we were contract manufacturing for in the States. And then the world of LED came along, and we were able to take some of those relationships, and those folks got us involved with entities such as NASA, Lockheed Martin, Air Force, Navy, and so forth. So going forward, I see a lot of opportunity. Really only about 20% of all commercial lighting has been retrofitted to energy efficient LED. So the wave, so to speak, is recently started, whether it's with government entities or commercial buildings throughout the United States, and being able to pool the resources locally from Washington and parts of Oregon and automate and manufacture and ship products to help the energy efficiency costs throughout the United States is I think, going to have a very long future tenure going forward.
Well, Terry, but my last question for you is, you know, you've worked on all of these projects and you're still continuing to work on this, clearly very intensive with space travel. Would you, if you were given the opportunity, go up into space?
Oh, 100% yes. That's an easy. I've walked all through Kennedy Space Center. I've had special credentials. I've got to see things that only 1% of 1% of 1% of the population has seen or is probably going to get to see with having clearance. And it's absolutely amazing what goes on. And I would, without a doubt, take a flight up into space on 1 minute short notice.
Yeah, I am with you. I would do the exact same thing. So, and I have not seen what you have seen when it comes to that. Well, Terry, you know, thank you for taking some time out. I know you're not even at home right now, and you were still able to call into us and talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, Terry's on vacation. So sorry, I'm dressed unprofessional. I've got the Made in USA tank top on. That's about as close to the Made in USA thing I could find on short notice.
You're working on vacation, so I think everything's acceptable there. So, Terry, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. And again, yeah, thanks for being here on Fox 12 Now.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome day and finish your week. Take care.
All right, there is Terry again talking about the Artemis Mission and Envirolux, and on vacation and still making his way onto the show. So in addition to Terry, I did speak to Senator Cantwell from Washington. And this conversation, I'm just going to say behind the scenes, you know, I only had a few minutes to speak to her. There was a lot going on. I was able to call in and talk to her, and then they recorded the answers as I called in and gave them. So I'm going to play 3 different clips here. That's why it's going to look like that. But very appreciative of the time with her. And so the first thing I wanted to ask was about the efforts that she has made to bring some of these Artemis jobs to the Northwest, and specifically Washington, but also some of that comes here in Oregon as well, and why it is that push is happening, and what it is that she's doing to make that happen for the space industry and the economy here in the Northwest. So here's the answer to that question, and then we'll go through the other ones.
Well, what we're doing as a nation is saying that we want to go back to the moon and use it as a resource to go to Mars. So exploration in space. our state and really the Northwest region, both Washington and Oregon, have many companies that are focused on aviation and space and the next generation of air transportation that we see even in this commercial space mission. But on Artemis, there are companies like Envirolux, you just mentioned, that are part of the supply chain. They're building solutions to what it takes to go the next step. Most people think, well, we've already been to the moon. But part of Artemis's mission is to figure out how to operate just even things like the spacesuits themselves, where astronauts will have to be doing a fair amount of work while they are on the moon, are different than we just went for our first visit. And the complexity of just making sure they're better protected with lightweight materials, composites, something our region has been expert in. So what we do is really just try to make sure there is the skilled workforce, the amount of research and development at our universities, and good partnerships between the public and private sector on that level of innovation.
All right, again, that's Senator Cantwell with her comments on that first question. Next, I asked her, just in general, if there's a lot of people that may feel like spending money on going to space may not be a worthwhile venture. There's more important things to spend on. So I kind of asked why people should care about the Artemis mission, what it is that she thinks is important for that, and why it is that we're doing all of this.
That space exploration is part of our history, and it is both symbolic and scientifically important. Symbolic, we all know, in what impact it had for our nation when we put the first man on the moon. And we're at a time in the information age when I'm not saying we're being challenged by the world overall, but we certainly are on some various solutions. Just look at AI and the information age and how this is all playing out in the development of new products and services. So a lot is happening in space, and people want to know that the United States is a lead explorer in space activity. So there are other reasons about space that we want to be smart about for defense purposes too, but this is really about a scientific mission and accomplishing that scientific mission. In addition, I think scientists really do want to know about life on Mars. They want to know about our ability to exist in a longer term period in the moon environment and then inform our mission to Mars. So there are real scientific issues that they're also exploring. So this is something that's been part of our past and I think an important part of our future.
All right, so again, Senator Cantwell, and so this was me talking to her. I asked her questions and then she gave me answers as we were going through that. There's no video of us back and forth, so that's why I'm jumping in between each one. Final thing, though, I did ask her was something that I tend to ask, I guess, everybody when it comes to the space program is, would you go if given the opportunity? Would you take one of these rockets up? A lot more people are going up now. Would she do it? That was my question.
You know, as a young woman, when we didn't have any women in space, I definitely thought that was a great idea. I thought, you know, trying to be one of those people. Now that it's gone from the scientific to maybe the commercial mission, I think I'd like to go. I don't know that I'm going to plan on it anytime in the near future, but my colleague, Senator Nelson, who now is the NASA administrator, did take that ride, and I think it changed his life. I think it gives you a perspective about the world in such a unique way that very few people get to see the world from that far away and that distance. And I think it's a rewarding experience. So maybe someday.
All right, so there we go. That was the bits that I got there from Senator Cantwell, talking to her. Appreciate her and her team, and of course Terry. So just finding out a little bit more about Artemis. I think it's really interesting to learn that, and especially having these local connections to something that's so, you know, so huge. It's going to space. By the way, I 100% will go to space. So if anybody wants to offer me a ride, I will definitely do that and report live from up there. So that's something I'm going to do. But we have more right here for you today. So you're watching Fox 12 now, and we got a lot of programming for you today. So if you're watching a repeat, well, you know to tune in live every Wednesday at 1 p.m., but also you'll know that these videos are coming up too at 1:30 p.m. We've got Eric from Around the House. We're going to talk to him about his history in his industry, how he got into making a television show. We're going to get a little bit of a tease of something coming up, a great conversation. That's going to be happening right here. And then at around 2 p.m., we're going to be talking about Otters. Yes, the Oregon Zoo is going to be joining, and we're going to be talking about the marine life that they have at the Oregon Zoo. I mean, look at that. See, right there. That makes you want to come back, because we're going to find out about a dunking otter. I mean, you know, what more do you want? So that's all coming up on today's show. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to sign off for a minute, but wherever you're watching this, I'll be right back on there. So if you're watching on our apps, then you know to just stick on that. You're going to see something else for a few minutes. About 1:30, I'll be back. If you're watching on YouTube Live, we'll start another video, so you can join it right there to talk to Eric. So Eric 1:30, Zoo at 2, all that's coming up. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for watching. This is Fox 12 Now.